jobs numbers. We had the initial claims for unemployment. We'll get the Labor Department unemployment report tomorrow. But joining us now is LinkedIn's Guy Berger. He is the LinkedIn principal economist, and we've got the LinkedIn workforce report. And one of the things, Guy, that the report indicates is that hiring in the United States is recovering. It's now, only 7.4% lower than it was in July of 2019. Help us understand what that means as we try to get back on our feet.
Yeah, Adam, thanks. That's a great question. I think when you think about the economy, we had this super sharp plunge back in March and the first half of April, and then starting in the middle of April. And since then, we've seen some of these indicators recover, both in the hiring we track, in the claims data. And really, by the time we reach July, things have improved, not the whole way, but a lot of the way back. I think what I'm thinking about a lot, though, as we look ahead is what you talked about in terms of COVID cases picking up potentially in the Northeast, what Jessica talked about with fiscal stimulus already having expired last week and unclear whether it's coming back. These things are going to potentially put a ceiling or a damper on further gains. Can we get back to where we were at the beginning of the year in the next few months? I think that's really open to question. Maybe the biggest gains are already behind us, and the rest of the way forward is going to be a big slog.
And it's also, of course, unclear, Guy, where the gains are going to be, how uneven it's going to be across industries. I know you guys are looking at different industries, and I have a question about one of them. You say public administration did the best last month, leading the pack with 12% growth. Then there was wellness and fitness, which is also interesting, 10% growth. What does public administration mean? Is that government workers, for example? What does that include?
Yeah, I think it includes a lot of things in the public sector. And I think that's one of the sectors, at least so far, has been dinged less by the fall off in demand or by government shutdowns that affected other sectors. But it's also something that potentially, if you think about it, and again, this brings us back to stimulus, is vulnerable going forward. We know that state and local governments are very vulnerable in terms of their finances. There's controversy over whether the next stimulus bill is going to include funding for those institutions. So, even this one sector that's so far doing pretty well because it's less vulnerable to the back and forth of consumer and business demand might still take a back step if fiscal stimulus doesn't deliver going forward.
Hey, Guy, it's Brian Chung. Great to speak with you. So something that I was interested in from the jobless claims number this morning was specifically pandemic emergency unemployment compensation, which is an extension of those employment benefits to those who were previously on unemployment insurance, but maybe had their claims expired during this period of time. These are people that have likely been on the sidelines even before COVID. What does that speak to when we talk about the permanent damage to the labor economy? Are there other types of metrics that you're also looking at to see, now that we're X amount of months into this, whether or not we're going to come out on the other side with a dramatically different looking labor market?
I'd say the number one thing I'm going to be looking at on Friday, tomorrow, is not actually the headline unemployment number, but the number of people that are unemployed due to permanent layoffs. Even as overall unemployment's been falling down really sharply in the last few months, we've seen the permanently unemployed zooming up. It's now at levels consistent roughly with the 2001 recession. And there are signs right now, given that claims are still really, really elevated, it's going to keep moving up for at least this month and maybe beyond that. As long as that keeps going up, I think that indicates that there's some limit to the rapid labor market improvement we're going to see, because once people are permanently unemployed, they have to find a new job. That takes time. We know it took a really long time after 2009 to correct for that.
Guy, what about the need to extend the Paycheck Protection Program? That's still part of the debate on the stimulus package in DC. If that isn't extended, how significant will the layoffs be in the second wave or the third wave?
Wow. So, we're talking about all these things that are at risk, and we haven't even touched upon that. I think a lot of these people are back and they're employed, despite the fact that if there wasn't support, they'd probably be laid off. If that's not extended, if it expires, then a lot of these people that at least on paper are employed could be back on unemployment insurers and looking for work when there aren't a lot of job openings out there, even though there's been some recovery on that front. So this recovery is really vulnerable to COVID. It's really dependent on government support. Even though we've gotten some really bad numbers, they could have been worse. And we're really going to need that support going forward for at least a little while longer, if not more.
All right, Guy Berger is LinkedIn's principal economist. We appreciate your being here.